Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Side Hustles and Stuff podcast. This is episode 18, and I'm joined by Keishi.
Hey, Yuriy, how are you today?
I'm doing good. It's very nice outside, clear blue sunny sky, minus the heat and humidity. But how about you?
Not bad. It's really hot outside, but I guess it's better than really cold. So what are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about the drinks that we're having today. This is the Drinks and Stuff podcast, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
What do you have?
Today, I have the usual water, of course, but that's not even worth mentioning anymore. But I have Tea's Tea Apple Tea.
Tea's Tea Apple Tea.
Yeah, it's some Japanese brand iced tea.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be really fresh, like made out of fresh apples. And it looks good. I'll post the picture in the show notes.
Did you open it yet?
Not yet. I'll try it once we start talking. But I wonder if the Tea's Tea is meant to represent the same as tasty.
I'm thinking that.
Think?
Yeah, Tea's Tea, tasty tea. Maybe it's a play on words or an attempt at play on words.
Probably a bit too many mentions of tea. It's also in Japanese, it's called apple tea on the cover here.
I see the cover. It says nama apple tea. Nama meaning for raw.
Yeah, like fresh, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Raw. But yeah, so it's like fresh apple tea, Tea's tea.
Well, you can't have enough tea.
But yeah, decided to go with something that's non-carbonated so that I don't look like an unhealthy person all the time. How about you?
I have 3 drinks on my desk. One is talked about last time. It's the salty lychee drink. It's the rehydration drink. I was outside earlier. I'm already started drinking that. Next one, I have high protein water. So on the label it says MURB, MERB. Maybe that's the name of the drink. So it's protein water. It has 20 grams of whey protein, 5,000 milligrams of BCAA, 1,000 milligrams of something. I mean, in katakana this is a kuen, but I have no idea what that is. And it says MERB is all right. So this is me reading the label right now. MERB is awesome energy booster that have good nutrition and delicious taste. When you want to be stronger, faster, winner, refresh, drink me. We will support it. So this is like a good example of, sometimes, although not often nowadays, you will read some really odd English on Japanese products.
Yeah.
To be honest, I am disappointed that they're trying to proofread everything and they're trying to get natives, and you have native speakers that are just like complaining about the not the bad English, but the awkward English on things. I don't complain. I love it because it's a unique thing, reading it and trying to figure it out. It's like, wow, only in Japan.
Yeah. So some of the Japanese English signs
I love them.
Hilarious.
I love them. It's like not in the sense of I'm making fun of them. It's unique and it's funny. Not like, oh, poor English. I just think it's the only kind of spirit you can find in Japan. And if we get proofreaders to like correct everything or complain about the stuff that they see on shirts, then the world is going to lose its soul and, everything will be typo free.
Yeah. But anyways, if I understood the description correctly, then you should be on fire today.
Yeah. It's a protein drink, and there's also, it's a pink lemonade and raspberry mix, and I'll try it right now. Have you heard that?
I heard you opening the bottle, yeah.
It tastes, there's like, if you ever drank protein shakes, they're kind of like have you feeling more thirsty in a way. This is definitely a strange taste. I can taste the raspberry, but I can taste something else, but I'm not quite sure what it is. I think it's the protein. Yep. So there's that. And finally I have the Boss Can coffee with, if you know of the famous Boss advertisements that they use Tommy Lee Jones for.
I don't think
Oh, really? Because Tommy Lee Jones was used for a lot of the guy from Men in Black, from the original Men in Black. He was used in many Japanese coffee commercials as the boss.
Maybe it's because I don't drink coffee, so I don't pay attention to the coffee.
I'm just opening it right now, and it tastes good. All right, those are my drinks.
All right, so that aside, what are we talking about today separate from drinks?
All right, so now that we covered the side topic of today, we can get into the main topics. Today is August 30th. It's almost the end of the month, which for us listeners means that it's time to recap on the goals that we promised at the end of July for August. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, mostly our goals.
Yeah, exactly. It's at the time somebody's listening to this, it's already the beginning of September. But as we're recording this, it's the end of August. So yeah, let's look back at the month and let's plan out the month ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, before we do that though, why don't we chat a bit about a couple of random things, and how about we just start with the books that we're reading right now?
Okay. So on my end, I have a lot of books. Jesus Christ. I have a lot of books that I need reading. but I am just about done with Factfulness by Hans Rosling. It's an interesting book. Takes on the world's problems, and then the guy takes on the world's problems, and then he gives you a framework of how to look at it, as opposed to how most people look at it, and usually they mistakenly look at things.
Yeah.
So each chapter is like covers a way of thinking, or like, in other words, how to beat a certain bias or logical fallacy. So, for example, the last 2 chapters that I read were kind of interesting. Actually, the last few chapters were very interesting. There is the blame instinct, which gives numerous examples of like how when a certain world event happens, people look for someone to blame. For example, in 2015 or something, there was a lot of refugees trying to enter Europe from Northern Africa, I believe.
Yeah.
And there was like the very famous picture of a drowned child washed up on the beach, right? And, a photographer snapped a shot of that. And this was in the world news. And so people were like trying to think, who do we blame for that crisis? And the book kind of mentions that one of the targets to blame were the refugee smugglers. They get paid €1,000 to ship refugees on like really low quality boats or dinghies.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's more of a system issue, where like I think there were certain laws or rules that if you use a nicer boat, then it would make it harder for the refugees to come across. And at the same time, they can easily fly. Like it also made the case that it's not that they couldn't afford to fly; they could definitely fly. Tickets to Europe are very cheap, but the fact is, those people will get turned down because the countries were not exactly upholding the Geneva Convention. So so in a sense, ultimately, when you're looking to blame someone, you're really keeping it simple. But the answer is like the more factful answer is that it's a much more deep rooted problem than just like pointing blame at one person. It's like, first of all, it's the immigration issues. Even though technically they have the right to pursue asylum, certain countries do get weeded out before they even get on the plane. So there's a whole network of things, rather than just like, oh, it's the refugee smugglers that are like bringing in people and then causing them to die.
Yeah, exactly. Things are always much more complicated on the under surface compared to what you just see in the news.
Yeah.
But I think that was a good book. I don't remember much of it because I read it before I started taking notes on books and things like that. So so my memories are pretty weak from the content of it, and I hope to read it again sometimes in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he had overall like a fairly optimistic look on what's going on in the world and like how countries are developing and how the world is progressing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, very deeply rooted in like statistics and data and analysis. So yeah, he passed away sometime back, but unfortunately before finishing the book. So I think his daughter finished the book, or his daughter and her husband or something. But yeah, I'd be really curious to see what he'd have to say about the current coronavirus crisis and the outlook on that.
Yeah, definitely. I actually didn't know that the author passed away. I'm hearing about this now. I thought it was just because I saw this book promoted everywhere at a bookstore, but I bought it before. Like I saw it on your bookshelf, so I was like, sounds interesting. And then a few weeks back, I went to a bookstore and I saw it all over the place.
Yeah, he passed away in 2017.
Here's a quick question, unrelated. You say you read this book before you started taking notes, right?
Yeah.
How do you take notes on books?
Nowadays, I just essentially before, like, I treated books as sacred and I didn't want to write on them and write in the margin or underline or anything. And I kind of regret that at this point. But now I just, like, as I'm reading things, I always have a pen and a bunch of sticky notes by my side. And like if I see a few lines that are interesting, or if I have some thoughts, I just either underline the things or jot it down in the margin and put a sticky note there just to know that I put a note there.
Yeah.
And then like sometime later, I go back through the book and just go through the parts that I highlighted, and I either decide to ignore it or type it into my Evernote and kind of store it there.
And what do you do with it in your Evernote? The stuff that you transfer over?
I just keep it there. Sometimes I go back and like skim through some of the notes on the books that I read. But yeah, I feel like just the process of doing this, even if I don't do anything with the notes once they're done, it just helps me remember more from books.
Yeah.
So I kind of started doing that.
Nice. Now, just curious because I don't really take notes. I do underline a lot of stuff. But sometimes, I do feel like with all the books that I've read, it becomes in one ear out the other, that you kind of end up forgetting. I know like ultimately things will kind of make their way around and maybe
Yeah.
something will be useful, but like as a general thought, I feel like for the most part it's in one ear and out the other, and I've always been looking for a better way to like absorb this stuff, like if I really want to use it.
Yeah. Yeah. So like just to give you an example of the stuff I jot down, I'm just looking into like Exactly, which is the book that I finished earlier this month.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I underlined something about Rolls-Royce and Ford. So he's talking about how Rolls-Royce was doing everything by hand and like hand finishing everything, versus Ford is well known for like the assembly line, right?
Mm-hmm.
For starting the assembly line. So I just underlined some stuff, and then I just jotted down here in margin. Perfection creates good businesses. Scale creates great and large businesses. Just some food for thought. It's not necessarily correct or incorrect. It's some like stuff that comes to my mind as I'm reading these things.
Mm-hmm.
I just note it down in the margin to get it out of my head.
Okay, sounds good. So next up, what are you reading?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I just finished reading Exactly, which was pretty good. I it could have been a bit more technical, I guess, and some of the technical concepts could have been explained a bit better, I think. But essentially, it's like the history of precision in this world, and like how it went from like a tolerance of whatever, a couple of centimeters, a couple of inches, all the way to like a tolerance of essentially what, just a couple of atoms or something, and like all the technologies and things like that. So that was pretty interesting, and it was like the first book that I tried to read in my effort to kind of broaden the type of books, the variety of books that I'm reading,
Mm-hmm.
to also include stuff that's not 100% related to business,
Mm-hmm.
even though a lot of this was kind of related to business. But now I'm back to business about in an as capitalistic way as it gets, I guess. I'm reading Rockefeller's biography. It's called Titan.
Mm-hmm. How is it?
And yeah, it's almost 700 pages long, and I'm like 1/3 of the way there probably. I'm on
Oh
around
wow, putting in the
page,
work.
yeah, spending like 30-40 minutes every morning and plowing through it. But yeah, it's fascinating life, because I think a lot of people see Rockefeller as this like heartless, ruthless kind of prototype of like bad capitalist in a way, right? But like he seemed to be like devoted to his religion, and like went to church and helped the church, and I mean, now he's also known for all the good stuff that he's done. So it's not all the stuff about him is bad, but
Yeah.
it's pretty fascinating story how like he just started creating all these deals with the railroads so that he could ship the oil much cheaper than like all the other companies, and like later on how he just started consolidating all the small companies that were refining oil and doing stuff with oil, because otherwise he would crush them essentially,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the companies had a choice of either joining him or going out of business.
Yeah.
And like some perceive it as, oh, he's been monopolistic and like it's bad and bad for competition. But at the same time, I'm wondering, like, so if he didn't do that, and if he didn't go and like pick up all these small refineries that would have been bankrupt within a couple of years anyways, like what would have happened to the oil industry, right? Because I think sometimes, especially in these capital intensive industries like infrastructure and oil and things like that, like you really need to be large in scale in order to be able to make money, and in order to be able to survive, right?
Yeah.
And like to innovate and to move things forward, I think you need to be able to survive first. So I think it's really hard to argue whether like Rockefeller essentially being like a bullying monopolist was good or bad at the end of the day, right? Yeah, and the funny thing is that it seems like, especially back in the day, like the only people that blamed him of being a monopolist and like being a bad guy and stuff like that were those that he offered to buy out, but those that refused to sell and then went bankrupt, essentially, right?
Mm.
Versus people that actually went with his plan and joined his company, and rather than taking cash, took the Standard Oil stock. They went on to make millions a lot of the time. So I guess there's always two sides to a story.
Yeah, sounds interesting. It's should I pick this book up? 700 pages.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I think for you as an American and as somebody that's grown up in America, I think it's also interesting from the point of view like seeing what the life was like in the 1850s or around that time. I think that's when a lot of the early parts of the book is happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting from like the business perspective, but also from just what life in America was like 200 years ago or 150 years ago.
I recommended you one book on Barnum, P.T. Barnum. He was the guy that created Barnum and Bailey Circus.
Oh yeah.
Considered one of the greatest showmen on earth. And I have that on my Kindle, but it's very painful to read on my Kindle. So I have a physical coming in. But I think that would be also a very interesting read for you as well as for me in terms of life back then, like way back then, 200 years back, and their approach on business, which also by today's standards is very, very questionable. But
Yeah,
that was the reality back then.
Yeah, exactly. I think and again, it's not like it was illegal back then or anything. Perhaps it was a gray area, but at the same time, like in business, you always got to push the boundaries as much as you can, probably, right? Especially in something that's as competitive as the oil industry was back then. And yeah, like if you look at all of those that are kind of considered to be like some of the greatest entrepreneurs of the time or ever, essentially, like Rockefeller, Carnegie, Gould, whatever his name was, and like Vanderbilt. It's like they all had their practices that were questionable and that people nowadays would be like, yeah, that's not how business works. But yeah, like I said, back then that was the way it was done, and it's also why we have the infrastructure that we have today. So.
Yeah, and it's also why we have protections that we have now today, because we didn't have those protections and regulations.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're kind of experiencing a similar era right now with the internet companies, because I think it's a completely different beast than like a Standard Oil or than like a monopoly railroad or something.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in many ways, it's similar. And I think the politicians are trying to figure out a way to approach this, and it might be interesting to see how it evolves.
Yeah, I mean, like, so when you say, oh, many people consider them bad, because a lot of this stuff is in hindsight, right? We look at it from today's lens back onto yesterday or 200 years back. And by today's standards, yes, it's bad. And we wouldn't want to, let's say, work in the similar conditions as those back then. But for them, that was their reality back then. And the reason why that was the reality back then was like, one, this was just new at the time. They didn't know how to deal with it. So, like by now we have like a lot of historical context and data to work from. They did not, and they found something that works. Maybe it was also damaging to someone else, but for that time being, there was no law against it. Is it bad? Yes, but like that was the reality at the time, and we can't really control that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly, and that also makes it really hard to say whether it was bad or good. Like it just was what it was, because that's how it seemed to work back then. And like again, even today, like when you have a company that can crush its competition. Like whether it's a small company, whether it's like your neighborhood bakery, or whether it's Facebook and Google, like everybody wants to crush their competition at the end of the day, right? That's business. And then I guess it's just finding the balance between up to what point does crashing competition help the economy and help the overall innovation and help the overall environment, and at what point does it become kind of hurtful?
When you're buying all the apps, when you're buying up all your competition, and everyone goes to you and all the traffic goes to you.
Yeah.
Like a certain someone that we might know of. All right. And I see next up in the notes you have this. We talked about this earlier briefly on being a doctor versus having a side hustle or YouTube presence that earns much more than a doctor's salary, right? Can you just provide the background information so all of us know what's going on?
Yeah. So the other day I was browsing around YouTube and I saw this video by a guy called Ali Abdal, and he publishes a lot of videos about like productivity and learning and things like that. And essentially by day he's doctor, and in the evenings and at nights he's a YouTuber, a productivity YouTuber. And he posted a video where he broke down his income for a week, right? So he had like a full breakdown from like Monday through Sunday. And like I pretty much started just skipping through the video after Monday because it was repetitive. But like what really caught my attention is that his income breakdown for Monday was being a doctor, $172, YouTube AdSense, $119, Skillshare, $169, Skillshare affiliate, $10, Paperlike and Epidemic Sound, which is some affiliate programs, I believe, $123, and Amazon affiliates, $11. And when you add that up, essentially, it came up to being a doctor, $172 on Monday. And being an online entrepreneur or a YouTuber or content creator or whatever you want to call it. I
wouldn't call it an entrepreneur just yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess let's call it YouTube creator or content creator.
Yeah.
Anyways, that portion came up to like $429 in a day. And looking at that breakdown, I was like, yeah, like the online part, that's what I love about this world, right? Everybody can go out, everybody can start their own online business, everybody can make nice sums of money relatively easily compared to like when we look back at the Standard Oil times, let's say, to bring Rockefeller back in. But then I also look now, like being a doctor, $172 and the rest 429, and this also shows to me like what's really bad about this world in a way that I think it's like it's great that you can be a capitalist and you can build a business and like whatever value you create is the value you get back in terms of money. But at the same time, because this world is largely driven by money, like I was like, if we pay doctors $172 a day and they can go out and build a side hustle that makes them 3 times as much, is this really the way it should be? And again, I don't know if it should be this way, if it shouldn't be this way, but it just struck me as like there's something wrong about this.
Yeah. Looking at the two, like side hustle versus doctor. I mean, off the top of my head, if I think which of these does the world need more, in my opinion, it's definitely the doctor. You know, between a YouTube creator, content creator versus a doctor, I think a doctor is going to do much more good to the world. Even if you could become a really popular YouTuber, even if you could, spread your ideas all over the internet, even with that, I would say the world is in much more need of doctors than YouTube content creators. So when I saw this, I was like, it's a little depressing that he would drop, and understandable. Yes, understandable. But from the grand scheme, it's depressing that he would drop being a doctor in favor of pursuing online content creation, because again, the world needs doctors more than it needs another YouTuber.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing is that like if you start a side hustle and it becomes successful, then the limit is really the sky, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a business, and a business can grow and grow and grow. Whereas in the job, the growth is kind of more modest, right? It's like you can only get so many raises, and they will only be so big every time.
Yeah.
So like no matter what job you're doing, like if you start a side hustle and become successful at it, eventually your side hustle will become bigger than your job in terms of income, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's great if you're like a consultant or a banker or something and you like hate your job because you have to be in the office 12 hours a day or something. But then it's also not good when you have people that really aspire to be doctors or people that aspire to be firefighters or teachers or something, right?
Yeah.
And then they go on to run their online businesses that make them 4 times as much, even though not necessarily like delivering as much social value or whatever you want to call it. But then again, that's how the world works. So it's not like I'm judging anybody or anything, because it's not like I'm a doctor either.
To be honest, I don't know how to approach it, or if there is a solution here, or how to approach it. Most people would be like, all right, maybe the doctor needs more money, or all right, maybe we should make sure that content creators get paid less money. But then the issue is that content creators, I guess a lot of revenue is driven by the amount of eyeballs you get, like I think we also talked about this earlier, thinking between, say, basketball players and teachers. Probably the reason why basketball players get paid as much money as they do is that they're literally attracting a really large crowd of viewership and viewer base. And that brings a lot of, sponsors and advertisers.
Yeah.
There's a whole economy inside that. Whereas with the teachers, no one's exactly tuning in to see teachers teach kids. It's a bit of an issue. It's like a systemic issue. I don't know what kind of issue it is, but it's not something to easily put blame on anyone. But it's a bit of worrying.
Yeah, and I mean it just an kind of a unintended consequence of capitalism, right? Because like essentially all the money that he's making online, he's making that much because he generated even more money for somebody else, right? Like YouTube AdSense, like he's made $119 on that Monday because he's generated YouTube probably like $200 or whatever.
Yeah.
Skillshare, $169. Again, he's making $169 because probably he generated like $300 for somebody.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's all sales, right? It's all, whether it's affiliate, whether it's ad or whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's like being part of the sales machine for somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that pays disproportionately to somebody's time, especially when you leverage something like YouTube. Yeah, that really creates a problem that I don't know how it can really be solved, because of course he deserves the money that he earned online, and of course he deserves the money that he earned as a doctor.
Yeah.
And like, should he have earned more as a doctor, or should he have earned less as an online creator? Or is it just fine the way it is?
Yeah, maybe there's some way in between, or maybe, I don't know. That's what makes it very hard to approach, because our first instinct is to either we crank one up or we crank one down. Either we slash the salary in one place or we raise the salary in another place, but both aren't exactly easy to do or fair in some way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I said, it's a systematic issue. Like I don't think you can like turn any single knob and fix this thing.
Yeah,
because it just kind of embedded in the system. And again, it's great for many, many, many reasons. And like, if it wasn't great, we wouldn't be running a podcast about side hustles, right?
that's true.
But at the same time, I think like how to attract talent to this job that do not necessarily pay a lot of money, but that have high societal value, or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, whether it's an inventor, it's a doctor, it's a scientist, it's a firefighter, it's a policeman, all of these. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So the question is, how do you attract talent to these jobs, and how do you retain talent?
That's a great question.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, essentially the good thing about online entrepreneurship is that you can be in like Romania or something, and you can earn the same money you would earn in Silicon Valley, for example, right? If you build a business. But what it also means is that whoever would have been a doctor in Romania or in Slovakia, where I'm from, or whatever like the quote unquote poorer countries are, like all the smart people now have the world at their fingertips, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of creates a brain drain without the people even having to leave the country, I think.
Yeah. On a slightly off tangent, I think you read the Elon Musk book, right? He said it was a shame that smart people tend to go to finance instead of science. And I think it's also like a kind of a similar situation here, where you have young kids that are watching YouTube, they're dreaming of becoming YouTubers and content creators, whereas like that's not exactly what the world needs. The world would be much better off with people that are able to help other people, like doctors. And not to say that there's no value up front in YouTube, but I think the actual needle movers are, those jobs with higher societal value than a YouTuber.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because essentially I think, like couple of decades back, all the smart people started going into finance, right? Wall Street, because that's where a lot of the money was. And then it was Silicon Valley, and everybody wanted to start a startup or work for a startup or whatever, like in the early 2000s, I guess. And now everybody wants to be a creator, and everybody wants to have a personal brand and like run a YouTube channel, run a blog. And again, I think to some extent we're guilty of this too, and I don't think it's necessarily bad, but it also draws a lot of smart people away from other things where they are really needed as well.
Especially NASA or space science. That's if I were to go freelance and start creating marketing collateral for companies and organizations to attract top talent, I would do NASA's work for free.
I think there's a lot of people that would do that for free.
Well, where are they? Because we need more NASA marketing out there.
Yeah, but I think that's what's great about Elon Musk. I think he's bringing a lot of coolness into the space industry, and it's amazing to see what SpaceX is doing.
Yeah. Maybe the world needs a bit more Elon Musks.
Yeah, definitely.
Some variations of him, not all variations. All right. Yeah. So we just covered what we're reading about and being a doctor versus being a content creator on YouTube. And let's get into our main topic of today, and that's our August 2020 goals and progress reports. So on my end, Keishi, I promised 5 out of 5 articles, right? And my site also was down last week when we talked. The site is back up. So goal-wise, let's see. Scrolling through the site now, my voice is going out. 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 articles for August. So, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And 5 articles as promised. Out of the 8, 5 of them are the product review articles that I said I would do for Amazon. So I hit my goal, and I also did 3 extra articles on top of that.
That's awesome. So you delivered on your promise.
Yep. It's I guess remember we talked about it last time. This is why I'm a fan of like small goals in a way, because you need to be able to say I will do this.
Yeah.
No matter how easy it is, and then you need to do it and then say I did it. Because if you pick, all right, it's fine to pick something hard, but the fact is, ultimately at the end of the day, you have to come back and say, yeah, I did that. You have to finish that and say you have to come back and say I did that. And that's when you're able to find your groove and your rhythm.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is you have to be able to finish it first. And that's why I go for the easy goals for now. And then I can scale up later if I feel like it. So
yeah. And I think scrolling through your site right now, it seems like since we started doing these progress and goals reports, or whatever we want to call them, yeah, it seems like your posting frequency has increased since we started doing these progress reports.
Yeah. Because it's nice to talk about goals. It's nice to be like, all right, what are you gonna do next? I don't know, just it makes you want to do more. Because we're talking about it at the present. I don't know how like people want to get deep into the topic and say, all right, how do I accomplish a goal? How do I set a goal, and how do I get it done? it's a very hard and heady question to answer. This is where I delegate to the poo, the Tao of poo. I think you should be a bit less stinky and a bit more dewy, because it's hard to explain how I did it. Like we can talk about, all right, I came up with a small goal. Number two, I sat down and put my head into work. I don't know. It's like, but yeah, like talking about it, I guess, puts you into the mind state of that, of whatever it is you're trying to do. And I think that's particularly helpful.
That's great. So hopefully your site continues to grow.
Yeah, the traffic is up. Minus the other site that went down last week. Traffic is way down on that. I think it's still recovering because it was down like 4 days or something.
Nice. Do you have any plans for starting a third site or at some point?
Yeah, I'm thinking about topics, but like you said, it has to be either something I know a lot about or something I'm interested in. And I realize I don't know a lot about a lot of stuff that I'm willing to write about. But arguably, I also didn't know a lot about language, and the reason I'm able to do it is because I hire freelancers to write for me.
Yeah.
Because I've become accustomed to it. So maybe I should take the same approach.
Yeah, especially if you want to write the first few articles yourself. It's always good to know about the topic, and also if you know about the topic, then it makes it so much easier to just research the articles that you want to write. Just do the keyword research. But at the same time, it's like I think no matter what topic you pick up, you can somehow figure it out at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, we did it in college with our college essays. We somehow managed them, but
yeah,
that doesn't mean those are worthy of reading or should be read by anyone. That was just really bad work.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, if you just publish a piece of content and somebody comes there and like finds a piece of information that helps them, then I think you've done a good job, essentially.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm leaning towards is because I've also produced a lot of bad content, and it's like being in this for as long as I have, it's very, very visible or very, very obvious, very, very clear that the more useful it is, the more useful you try to make it, the more honest utility that you put into it, the better it'll do overall. Like you can't lie about it, you can't cheap it out, or you can't be lazy about it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at your site. It seems like your first article was published in 2012. That's like 8 years ago. Wow.
Yeah. Really? That was a long time ago.
Yeah. So how about next month? Any goals that you want to hit?
All right. So next month, let me say six articles for starters. Anything that comes on top of that is a bonus. But I'll continue. I still have some work left on the Amazon product stuff. I still have a few more languages to hit, so I think that should be fine. That will do for now. Other goals, like I have plenty of other goals in mind, but like the video stuff, but I don't want to put a direct deadline on it just yet.
And any other interesting thing even if it's not necessarily a goal, and any other sort of things that you're planning to do over the next month or so?
I actually have not thought about that. I was like, oh, my goals are fine. I'll set some new goals. I'll set the same goals. But it's also important to do new stuff too, isn't it?
Yeah, I need to stretch you a bit because you're over delivering on your goals every single time.
Yeah. So you need to have like a failure and a success instead of win. You got to trip somewhere.
Yeah, because listeners will start to think you're perfect.
They'll think I'm boring. Like, he did it again. What do I want to do? All right, you know what? That stupid comedy video, I'll get it done. But it's going to be bad.
Okay, bad is better than not done. So.
Exactly. Bad is better than doesn't exist.
So in that spirit, in the next show notes, you will find a link to Yuriy's stupid funny video.
Oh no! All right. Damn.
And then you can vote whether it was stupid or whether it was funny or whether it was both.
Or whether it was a video.
Or whether neither. Or whether it even qualifies as a video.
Like, I don't think that's a video. But like the background information behind that video is because I do a lot of copywriting. I also do a lot of script writing. I also do a lot of writing for ads and videos and like whatever products. I've always had like ideas for stupid commercials, and so I have a document going somewhere about like really stupid products that I wanted just to write a commercial about, and that's what I kind of want to do. So If you ever watched Mad TV or SNL, I'm pretty sure they would have a skit or two on like really crappy or imaginary products. So it's in the same spirit.
Awesome. So we'll be linking to that video in the next show notes. So make sure to keep listening to us.
All right. What about you?
Yeah. So I had to listen to the previous episode actually to figure out what I promised, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it seems like I've done fairly okay. So I said I would train my virtual assistant in like creating and adding Amazon links to articles so that I don't have to bother with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that I can check off. So now all my like best whatever type of articles, all my Amazon review type of articles, are written by a writer and then edited by an editor and formatted by the assistant. So I pretty much don't have to touch them once I find the keyword and make the outline, which is great because I hate working on those, but they bring in some money. So that's great. And then I said I would start reviving an old site that I started about 2 years ago and that gets about 2,000 visitors a month, but that I haven't posted on for quite a while now.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially I want to see how well will it perform in Google now that Google knows it for quite some time. And if I just start dumping new content there. So I planned out, I outlined about 20 articles and I got written and published the first 5 of those.
Yeah.
So I guess I delivered on that goal too. And then the third goal was creating a video for my personal YouTube channel. So that I guess videos in this podcast are not doing really well, but I didn't deliver on that one either. So yeah, so I didn't create a video, but I figured out a format for a newsletter for my personal blog, keishinukina.com, and I've written the first newsletter and scheduled it to be sent out. I scheduled it earlier today, and it will go out tomorrow.
Am I getting it?
You can subscribe at keishinukina.com.
All right, everyone. I'll do that too. You can subscribe at keishinukina.com for Keishi Nukina's newsletter. Subscribe today.
Yeah. And actually, I kind of decided to postpone the entire personal YouTube project, and instead focus on my personal blog.
Why?
Yeah, but one, I'm more comfortable with blogging than creating videos. I guess that's one, which is not necessarily a reason not to do videos. That's more of an excuse. But two, I feel like creating a solid blog first, and then a newsletter, and building the audience there, and then launching a YouTube channel is better than trying to build out the audience on YouTube first, where I have pretty much zero experience at this.
So is the reason why you're not doing YouTube is because you have zero experience or minimal experience?
It's one of the reasons. I guess, yeah, you can say that I'm trying to stick with what I know. But at the same time, I also understand that that's not an excuse and that's not a reason not to do it. I just think now it's not the right time.
Are you also uncomfortable on camera?
I haven't been on camera in a while, but I don't think that's as much of an issue as it takes quite some time to produce videos, especially compared to writing, because I think I'm a pretty fast writer. But like with the videos, you have to shoot them, you have to edit them and stuff like that. So it can take longer, I think. Yeah.
What about, here's a thought. Remember we talked about converting blog posts into podcasts simply by reading them out loud. So you can come up with a video already by taking an existing blog and summing it up into a quick video. Essentially, you already have a script to work with. That takes some work out of the routine.
Yeah, that's kind of what I plan to start with once I actually get around to it. But for now, I think it's postponed at least until like October or November, because I'm busy with my other blogs and also with client work and trying to figure out this personal blog thing and newsletter thing. So yeah, I think November, December, maybe I can go back to it and kind of rethink how I want to approach it. But for now it's on hold.
Okay. I think it's fine because, we have a lot of things that we want. We set a lot of various goals. Some things may not come now. They might come later. It's like, but as long as you're doing something, that's, I guess, the most important thing. As long as you have something running and something going. Just because one thing doesn't work now, maybe you can try it out later. That's a part of a kind of a flexibility that you have to have for yourself. It's important to hold yourself accountable and get things done. But at the same time, it's important to have the flexibility to know maybe something isn't going to happen just now and you can wait a little longer, and that's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's important to stick to your goals, but at the same time, I think, as long as you're moving forward and it's not like just you're becoming lazier, but it's more like you're focusing on the things that work and just doubling down on them, then I think cutting projects that you plan to do is in a way good, because you get to focus more on the ones that are working and that are bringing in money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to plan for the future too, because like I believe that every income stream eventually dies out, right? So as long as you're stacking them faster than they're kind of leaking out of the bottom, then I think you're growing, and that's good.
Yeah. There was a concept that I have in my head, and the metaphor is you should always be running, right? For example, and what I mean by that is this is just in terms of getting things done, just being ahead of the game. That's what the metaphor alludes to. So for example, let's say you and I are running like a marathon,
Yeah.
and you start, let's say 5 hours earlier, and we're going to run at the same speed, and I start 5 hours later, by that, based on that, I will never ever catch up to you, because you're just already running. You've already been running, whereas I started now. Now take that same concept, take it into, say, fitness and health. If you have been already at it for a while now, at this point, you can, for the most part, avoid most major health problems because you're active and fit. So anyone that gets caught with a health issue, for the most part, well, let's say generally speaking, they don't have the fitness or the health because they've been avoiding it, whereas you have been already running for a while. And say same thing with side hustles. Let's say there's a Google algorithm that knocked out your aviation blog, right?
Yeah.
But you've already been running with something else. So it's like, that's the kind of a metaphor that I see it as. You're kind of running with something, and like the reason you can keep going and not get hurt too much by things is because you've already been at it.
Yeah. I think that's a great metaphor, and yeah, I think more than anything, it's important to keep the momentum, whether it's the momentum of continuing to work and double down on your current projects, or a momentum of starting a new project or whatever.
Yeah.
Just keep working towards your,
keep running.
Keep progressing, keep running. Exactly. Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned, the aviation blog, I think that's a great example. Like the first time my aviation blog saw like a Google algorithm dip is when I decided to like start looking for some extra clients on for the consulting part of my business, and that led to a lot of great experiences and like meeting a lot of great people and earning a nice amount of money along the way. And it still brings a nice amount of money along the way. And like the next time I was hit by an algorithm and then by coronavirus, it kind of made me double down on the site that has now grown to like a few $1,000s a month in revenues.
Yeah.
So it's like, as long as you keep doing things that are kind of guaranteed, not necessarily guaranteed, but that are meant to grow, then wherever that growth is, at the end of the day, it will all stack up, right? Like if you make money out of 10 different sources, no matter which one of those you focus on to grow, like you will be eventually able to keep increasing your income.
All right. So yeah, that was a great point. Now let's circle back to your goals for next month. So what do you have on deck?
Yeah. So let's see. First of all, I just kind of want to get my personal blog in order, because I still don't have like an About Me page there and things like that. So the first goal is to create the About Me page and to write one blog post for the blog. Second, I've just booked a flight to Europe to visit my family, flying out mid-September, hopefully. I mean, we still have to see, because it was quite the job to figure out which countries I can pass through and which I can't, and like what the rules are for entering a country because of coronavirus and things like that. But hopefully Slovakia stays open, Czech Republic stays open, and I can go back home for a couple of weeks. And yeah, of course I'll get some work done while there, but at the same time I just want to spend time with family and like relax a bit, I guess.
Yeah. Is this your vacation?
I guess you can call it a vacation if it works out. We'll have to. But yeah, just so that I can kind of stay on top of things while I'm not here in Japan. I want to prepare all the briefs and everything I need for outsourcing to writers for the 2 weeks that I'll be gone in advance. So in the first half of the month, I just have to make all the briefs for the 3 sites that I have writers write for me for. And the other thing is, as I mentioned in one of the previous episodes, I've been going for walks at like 6:30 a.m. every day for like the last few weeks, including weekends. So I want to keep up with that, whether I'm here or whether I'm in Slovakia or wherever I might be. And I want to keep up with my at least 30 minutes of reading everyday habit as well, even while I'm gone. So yeah, so this month it's a bit more of modest goals, I guess, because I've got a bunch of client work to get done, and also because I'll be out of Japan and probably like off the computer for a good portion of the second half of September.
What about our podcast? Can you record from over there?
Yeah, we can record from Slovakia. We can also spend like, again, we can also try to record 2 episodes in 1 week, like we did a couple of times before.
We're letting out our productivity secret. Do things ahead of time.
But yeah, I just realized that's like the key to stress-free life, is like if you can stay on top of things.
Yeah. Like
if you know that even if something gets messed up, you still have like a backlog of automation working for you, essentially.
Yeah.
It's such a great position to be in. And that's what I'm trying to do for all my blogs now, essentially. Because for my main one, I've got to the point where I'm like 1 month ahead with content. So essentially I have posts scheduled up until the end of September at this point.
Nice.
right? So even if I don't do anything, the blog will keep running the way it is and the way it's been since it was started, or since I started putting effort into it. And I kind of want to do that with all my other blogs as well, just so that if something happens and I can't work on it for a week or two, it's still no big deal because I can always catch up.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, in the spirit of just keeping running, it's not like I won't do anything in the 2 weeks, right? I'll still outsource the articles. I'll still get a bunch of new articles done. But for example, I won't be as hard pressed to edit them right away after I receive them from the writers as I would be if I didn't have a backlog already scheduled.
Yeah. Well, that's smart. That makes sense.
Yeah, because then there's also the other side of like, I think the writers appreciate that I give them work every week. So I kind of don't want to break that rhythm. Yeah, so I'll get the briefs done, and then outsourcing it is just a matter of a few minutes of sending a message saying, hey, write these.
Yeah. All right. Any other goals? So you have the about page on your personal blog and one blog post. Is that it?
Yeah, pretty much for the online part. I don't list it here under goals, but I just want to keep up the pace at which I'm posting right now, which is like 8 articles on one side, 5 articles on the other, and 2 articles on the site that I recently launched. So there's like 15 articles a week. Potentially increase that further depending on how the revenue goes.
How's the recent site?
The recent sites just got like 32 articles or something, and it gets anywhere between 0 to 2 visitors a day.
Okay.
Because it's still young. So I'll be going back to that and seeing what it does in like 6 months or 8 months, and kind of reassessing and see how much more I want to commit to it or not commit to it.
Yeah.
Now the biggest kind of commitment aside from the main site is the site that I'm trying to revive, right? The site that I started posting 5 articles a week to. And essentially for that, it's kind of a longer term goal, of course, not over the next month, but over the next few months, I hope to get it to like 10 or 15,000 page views a month, so that I can add like premium ads on it and start monetizing it in a meaningful way. And then I'll have to see if I want to sell it or if I want to grow it further or what I want to do with it.
Okay. And you said you're maintaining your walks earlier. I'm still surprised that you're maintaining it that early in the morning.
Yeah, I know. Usually, I think I went every week. I went. The latest time was like 6:20 a.m. Even on weekends. But today I just had to hit snooze one more time, and I went out at like 6:30 a.m. But yeah, I like it because again, I go for the walk. I leave at like 6:20 or something, and get back at 7:15, 7:20, and I feel like I've done something.
Yeah.
And it's still just like 7:30 a.m. So like the whole day is ahead of me.
And you're wide awake.
Breakfast. Yeah, and it wakes me up and it gets me thinking, because generally I listen to podcasts or just think about some problem I'm trying to solve or whatever's at hand at that point. So it's really good productive / healthy time and like quote unquote me time.
Hey, wait, final question. Just to see if you're doing anything new at all or differently, how do you wake up for these 6 a.m. walks? I probably asked this last time, but still can't manage to wake up this early.
I use the iPhone clock app. It's pretty much everyone, I guess. And I have an alarm that goes off at 5:55 that I generally ignore. And then at like 6:10, and I might snooze from there.
What time do you go to sleep?
Usually around 11:30.
So 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you get about like 5 or 6 hours of sleep.
Yeah, about 6. I think 6.5.
That's not a lot though. Okay, because I guess I'm comparing to myself. I need like 7 or 8. Otherwise, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, you know, the first year after I graduated university, the office was like 1.5 hours from where I lived, and I worked on a bunch of consulting projects that we spent quite some hours working on. And there were times where I would wake up at like 5:30, get to the office by like 7 a.m., leave the office at like 10, get home at like close to midnight.
Jeez.
And rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
So compared to that, it's good. And I'm also glad that I started waking up early again, because before I used to wake up early because I would like walk my girlfriend to the station when she went to work and stuff like that. But now we're both working from home. So the wake up time has been slipping a bit towards the later hours. But yeah, creating this habit of the walk every morning is helping me wake up earlier. And now I feel like I'm really excited to go on the walk in the morning.
That's all right. That's something I'm very jealous of. I'll say that, because and I don't recommend you take up like going to the gym or anything. Otherwise, it's gonna add like extra required hours of sleep, and mornings will be even tougher. Because when I would train at night, the next mornings would be always rough.
Yeah.
Because your body has to recover, so to sleep for a little longer. So stay away from the gym. You're doing fine.
Yeah, I think for now I'll stick with walks.
Yeah. I mean, I should take on that since I'm not training as much. Maybe I should just brute force it and set an alarm clock for like 6 a.m. and then force myself out to go.
Yeah, you should try it. And it's like I was lucky because I just woke up one day, like that day I actually fell asleep really early or that night. And then I just woke up naturally at like 6. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? So like, oh, I'm going to go on a walk. And I did my usual, like I have a course that's roughly 1 hour. And I did that. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow too. And tomorrow too. And tomorrow too. And then it's like your really big calendar. It's just like, oh, I did it 15 days in a row. So there's no way I'm going to miss today.
Yeah.
And then just been continuing Saturdays, Sundays, holidays, weekdays, every day.
Yeah.
I love it.
Nice. That's all right. That's something I need. That's okay. Let me add one more goal while we're here. And I need to I'm going to mark it as not 6 a.m., but I'm going to mark it as either 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. walks. And I'll follow up next month on how it goes. Because I don't think I could jump down to 6 a.m. just yet.
Loved it. I'll add it here into the Notion document we have so that we can easily get back to it. So you said you'll write 6 articles or you'll publish 6 articles. Somebody else write them. And
well, the ones that I'm doing, it's I will write them because they're the Amazon product review stuff, and I get content writers to write like more educational related stuff. But I can do just as easily. I can ask them to write up. I just and come up with a template ahead of time.
That's interesting because I really hate the review article, and that's why I outsource.
Yeah, well, there's some ways you
from
can.
The beginning to the end.
Yeah, like if because some products are consistent across multiple languages. If it's just the same exact product, just a different language.
Yeah.
Then it makes it easy to just swap out the language when it's the same exact product and it still makes sense. So in that sense, I have a bit of a system for it. But it's also like a good practice in copywriting to see like I'll read through reviews to see what's like what people really like, and I'll focus on that. What people don't like, I'll also include just to make sure it's very, very transparent to the reader.
Yeah.
So like they know what the gist of the product is. 2, they know the good points, and 3, they know the bad points that may or may not compel them to buy or not buy the product.
Yeah.
So I guess I do it mostly also like I guess for my own sake, for the copywriting practice and being able to distill information like that.
That's great. Yeah. Next week we should do a copywriting masterclass with you.
All right. Well, we can't call it a masterclass. We'll call it a beginner course.
Okay.
I feel like the term masterclass is overused. Like I don't know what a masterclass is, but I guarantee you it definitely should not be a YouTube video or some audio or whatever of like a 30 minutes or an hour. Like a masterclass should be Einstein going over with Einstein and Niels Bohr teaching each other like the next high level equations, not a bunch of like newbie tutorials.
All right. So, we'll do Introduction to Copywriting by Yuriy.
Sounds good. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want the notes for this podcast, be sure to visit sidehustlesandstuff.com/E18, where we will list the drinks that we had today, mention the books that we talked about today, such as Factfulness and Titan and Precision. We'll also talk about our goals for August and our upcoming goals that we set today in this podcast. And also, if you do want to start your own side hustle and launch your project out into the world, whether it's art, blogs, writing, photos, music, anything that you want to put into the world, monetize, create your own little empire, you need to have your own website, place to showcase it and place to grow. And for that, we recommend Bluehost, where you buy a website, you buy a domain, and that's it. You're ready to go. And where you can launch your project finally to the world. A website makes it real. So again, be sure to visit the lesson notes for Bluehost and all of the other things that we talked about today. This is the Side Hustles and Stuff podcast with Keishi and Yuriy.
Talk to you later.
Later. I guess it's blooper time. La 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 la.
Because this world is like larger again. Because this world is larger again. It seems like your posting frequencies is again. It seems like your posting frequencies. Damn it. Again. It seems like your posting frequencies.
You're fine. Wow, this protein drink really is hard to drink. Yeah. If you do want to start your own side hustle, if you want to launch, that's a blooper. Again, if you do want to start your own side,
it's every week.
Yeah, something falls. This is the Side Hustles and Stuff podcast with Keishi and Yuriy.